Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Today I think I've got a project for you that I think you're really gonna like. We're talking about beacons, again, and I know I might be sounding like a broken record at this point, because if we take a look at the channel history, in the past very little bit we've got 3 beacon videos, plus 1 from a year back, so this sort of marks the 5th installation of my obsession with beacons. Anyways, insanity allegations aside, today we're going to be scaling things up even bigger. In case you forgot since the last video, or you haven't watched it, we ended with this monstrosity. It was essentially a proof of concept, with air quotes, it's just poorly designed, that doesn't actually have a timer installed, so it's currently like a car without an ignition switch. You just have to have somebody sit there and keep pushing the button if you want to cycle the colors. Now, for obvious reasons, this kind of left me with a bad taste in my mouth. I wanted to design a bigger beacon display, but this one just straight up sucks. So let's redesign it. So then I started drafting up design concepts for a slightly bigger beacon display. This one utilizes 8 beacons here, around a 2x2. But I thought since that I'm already redesigning it, I may as well go even bigger. So I started on a new design that uses this layout. This new layout was going to use 12 beacons surrounding an empty 3x3 in the center, as opposed to the original new design, as opposed to the original design. And in hindsight, I probably should have gone with the smaller version to start with anyways, but the reality is that this project's already insane by default, so I'm not really worried about scope creep. Alright, so how do we actually get to designing stuff? See, in order to pull off all of the weird rainbow nonsense that we're going to be doing over there, we need to essentially create this weird color pattern and inject it into a beacon beam, or 12 in this case. And I go into a bunch more detail on how this actually works, but in order to stay away from that for the sake of this video, we're just going to be using 3 individual tapes that run next to the beacon, and we're going to be using 3 sets of sticky pistons to sort of adjust which colors are in the beacon at which moments in order to create that pattern. Now, in order to pull off this system for the much larger 12 beacon setup, I actually have to split it into 4 different sections, with each tape running on the outside right next to the beacon. And we're using much larger tapes because since we have 3 beacons, each section of color needs to be 3 blocks wide. This also means that we have to move each tape 3 times later when we're actually setting that all up, but we'll get to that. We also have these sticky pistons in order to push it into the beacon beam, right here. And once we set up all the pistons, what we've got is essentially this cramped mess. In order to keep things short and succinct, I'm going to stay away from the details, but right now, we've got 1 button that'll be attached to all the feed tape mechanisms that'll rotate everything, and 3 buttons connected to the sticky pistons for each layer on the inside. Now, once again, keeping things short, but there is one detail I kind of want to hone in on a little bit, and that's only because I think it's really cool. Basically, we've got a dilemma. We've got all of our signals centralized here for the top, middle, and bottom pistons, but the problem is that these sticky pistons are here, and the signals are right here. And unfortunately, we don't have much room to work with because there's only a 1 block gap between here to pass a signal through. And I know normally that doesn't really sound like a problem, but on the bottom and top here we've got moving pistons and stuff, which means that we actually can't put repeaters or redstone dust or anything that needs to be supported here, and we need to bridge out 3 blocks. Now, the super clean and fast solution that I used here uses a little bit of unconventional redstone, and the reason I say that is because we're using a trapdoor, a glass pane, and an observer. What happens is when we turn on and off this trapdoor, it actually changes whether or not this glass pane can stick to this block face, and that's a change that can be observed by this observer. This works really well here because all of these blocks float super nicely, so they aren't disturbing or being disturbed by the moving blocks on the top and bottom, but also because they're really fast, which is important to making this thing also fast. Then came a couple more design iterations, and I eventually got to here, where I finished designing the circuit that allows me to create that binary color pattern over there, and then I realized that the super specific detail of cycling the tape 3 times, the one that I made special note not to forget, yeah, I forgot it. If you're wondering what that looks like, when you only cycle this thing once, you end up with this weird abomination, where exactly one of the colors actually managed to cycle to the next one. This beacon actually broke for an entirely different reason, but it's a good visual representation. Anyways, I quickly fixed that by just figuring out how fast the system could clock itself, and installing this repeater monstrosity in order to just power the entire thing 2 more times. And there it is, I'm done with the whole machine. Now I get to go to the super fun part of continually testing it and patching out every single bug I can find until it actually works properly. Okay, let's be real, the only fun part about this process is you end up with these really big graveyards of dead, broken machines. Basically all the time you had to copy and paste that thing, trying to catch a specific bug that you keep somehow missing. And after that hellish process, you eventually end up with this. It looks exactly like all the others, except it was the first one to actually work properly. As with all my machines, there's no attention paid to user compatibility. The on switch is baked into the center like this. And it just cycles beacon colors. Really, really slowly. And that was the end, or at least so I thought when I finished this thing. But I realized that I kind of shot myself in the foot. I basically made a mistake, like a civil engineer building a bridge from the east bank of a river to the east bank of the river again, like in a U shape, where I just kept going and going and going until I got to the end, and then I realized I had made a really stupid mistake. If we go back to the very beginning, the beacon pattern that I started this project with was the same one that I did all the other ones with, and it was red, purple, blue, cyan, lime, yellow, and orange. This is 7 colors. Now, what's wrong with 7? It's a nice number, I like it, it's very prime, in fact I think it's the most prime looking prime number out of all the single digit prime numbers. But the problem is that just because it's prime, makes it really counterintuitive to work with when you start designing custom tapes. See, I wanted this thing to be able to do more than just show a simple rainbow. Number 1, it's June, the month of many colors. And number 2, I got a lot of comments asking for specific tape designs I featured in previous videos, and I wanted to give people the opportunity to design their own. So I made a feed tape designer. And after actually playing around with this designer, I quickly realized that trying to create any looping pattern was virtually impossible unless it had exactly 7 colors in it. For example, if you have a pattern with 3 colors, pink, magenta, purple, you end up with these weird extra long bits if you try to loop it in 7s. Same thing if you're trying to go binary, and same thing if you're trying to do these breathing patterns that I really wanted to do. You end up with these extra weird stitch sections that are just terrible to work with. In hindsight, it would have made a lot more sense to start the machine by using 6 colors instead of 7 because it's divisible by both 3, 2, and 6. And so, because I hate myself, I went ahead and redesigned the entire thing, rearranged all the wires and rewired everything, and now I came up with this slightly smaller design that uses this new feed tape layout. Now, doing things with 6 colors becomes a little bit more challenging. See, the thing about feed tapes is they either have an even or odd number of blocks. 7 ones have odd numbers, which means one way we could do this is just pushing them all in sequential order. Since there's gaps in 3 of the corners, we just push this block, and that push gets moved around throughout the sections. However, if we move to the 6, it's even, which means it only has 2 corners, which means this one's filled. And if we try to do that, this one pushes, then this one pushes, and then this one tries to push, but it bulldozes this non-empty corner. What we have to do instead is push this one, then that one, then that one, then that one, which is what happens here. I want to mention that this is not really a harder kind of feed tape to support, but it is a little bit annoying because it's completely different from the one we were using previously, and it requires a completely revamped wiring system. In return, I get a nice other graveyard filled with broken, dead machines of trial and error, but aside from all of that, we eventually end up with this thing. It looks exactly the same, but with infinitely more customizability. So, yeah, I guess it was worth it. Okay, time for the actual payoff. Let's see some cool beacons. So to start off, we've got the normal ones. I don't really need to show those very much. They just go through all the colors. Here, I wanted to try a spiral shape, which looks like hell in the actual tape design, hence the need for that tape designer over there to convert from this understandable pattern to this one. It actually ends up looking like garbage though, because you can see through the beacon to the colors on the other side, which messes up the whole rainbow effect. Okay, so now on to some actually nice designs. This one includes all the primary colors being red, yellow, and blue, so it's definitely great for people who like variety. This one includes a bunch of other really nice colors, although despite the colors, I couldn't figure out how to remove the binary states in the back. We kinda need those, sorry. You also don't necessarily have to rely so heavily on those simple gradients and having all the beacons be the same colors. This one has sets of beacon colors that aren't necessarily the same at any given time, and simply transitions between two specific states. Here we've got cotton candy and sunset colors. So this is a great demonstration of why you can have more than one color at a given moment, or like this one, which swings both ways between two specific patterns. Lastly, I've got two beacons here that are sort of like ice cream colors. We've got mint and sherbet. They're great for people who are a little bit more picky than the people who will choose the one with all the primary colors, red, yellow, blue over there. And lastly, if you're truly unsure of what to pick, this beacon set with purple, white, gray, and black can be a good ace in the hole if you're just looking for something that looks nice. Honorable mentions are these three. This one uses a completely randomized grayscale color palette, although it's definitely broken. This one uses this weird wavy shaped color palette thing, and it's also definitely broken. And this one's just my favorite one. It uses some really nice colors, and I repaired it because, well, I like it the most. Anyways, that's about it. I'm not going to go into too much detail about the streamlined process I use to create these custom ones. I'll make actually a separate video on how to make your own piston feed tape displays, so make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for that if you're interested. But basically the way it works is it just converts a cake of colors like this, and each of these slices represents just what you're transitioning between. And then it just converts it into that after a bunch of button presses. This video took a little bit longer to make than most of the other ones that I've done, so thanks for watching, and if you want to support the channel a bit more, make sure to check out the other ridiculous nonsense I've worked on. Also make sure to subscribe if you want to check out that custom beacon palette maker thing, or any of the other ridiculous contraptions I got lined up. Also, there's a Discord server, so make sure to check it out if you want to have a chat with me, or get a sneak peek on any of the upcoming content that I'm working on. And that'll mostly be it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, hopefully.